Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with a look at the market for the week ending July 21st, 2017. And before we begin to look at charts, we usually read the disclaimer, so let's do that. Trading and investing has large potential rewards and large potential risks. This video presentation is designed for educational purposes only and is not a solicitation or advice to buy or sell any securities or other tradable instruments. You must be aware of the risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the markets. So consult a licensed professional investment advisor for investment advice. So let's start looking at some charts, beginning with the monthly chart of the S&P 500, just to get the big picture. And what we can see clearly here is that the market made a new high here, consolidated for a while, and then started rallying again. Now we're at 2472 on the S&P, and that's a new high. We have the 4 EMA, the 30, the 9 EMA, and the 30 weighted moving average, one above the other. And MACD looking pretty strong here. Chaikin money flows likewise. So monthly chart bullish. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, we still have an uptrend because if we're looking at the comparison of the trend lines, the location of the trend lines, we have the 4 above the 9, 9 above 30. So by that definition, if we use those three trend lines, trend is still up. We found support at 2400 as we were anticipating or hoping or expecting. And now we're making new highs, as I said, on the monthly chart. The parabolic is below the most recent bar, even though it came pretty close to hitting this bar here 2 weeks ago. So there is no indication to reverse the trend. Now, as far as MACD is concerned, we still have that ominous sign of this huge divergence of MACD from price. But it looks as though MACD is now looking to trend up. It's now in positive territory. No, it's still slightly negative, minus 0.25, just slightly below the zero line. So the big question is, will this divergence of MACD really play itself out as a further correction and break through the 2400 level? Or is this it? Have the bears exhausted themselves and now the bulls are beginning to take over? We can see this these two candlesticks here, green candlesticks, and they're bullish. Now Chaikin money flow loses a little strength here, but when we look at Williams percentile, the momentum is still strong and RSI 12 is still above 60%. So all in all, except for the divergence of MACD, which might have played itself out, we have to say that this is a bullish chart. Now let's look at the daily. On the daily chart, we can see that the 9 crossed above the 30 here. The 4 crossed above the 9 and the 30 at this point here. Now, what I'm looking at is this. According to my friend Rick Monteith at eFuture Vision, a very good buy signal occurs after the first cross of the 9 and the 30, the first close between those, first close below the 9 and above the 30 is a good buy signal. So if this MACD divergence is going to play itself out with a further correction or a correction period, then perhaps we will get a pullback between the 9 and the 30, offering us a very good buy signal for the general market. MACD histogram on the daily chart is looking much better here. And Chaikin money flow trended up a little. So that's my read. If we get a pullback at all, it will offer us probably a very good buy signal between the 9 and the 30. So let's take a look at some other charts, some individual stocks and ETFs. Now, before we start looking at individual stocks and ETFs, let me remind you that this is all educational. I cannot possibly tell you or any individual what to buy, how much of it to buy, etc. Because I'm not familiar with your financial situation. In any case, I'm not a financial advisor. So I'm discussing charts with you. I'm telling you what I'm seeing here. I know what I have to do, but I can't tell you what you must do. So here's Apple, the weekly chart of Apple. We saw this triangle here some time ago. It was really established on the daily chart. Look at it here, okay? We saw it back here in the daily chart, okay? And we established a target of 158.89. Well, we're not there yet, but on the weekly chart, let's go back to the weekly chart, we can see that Apple is now at 150.27. We can see that the 4 EMA crossed above the 9, and the 9 is above the 30. So Apple is found some support here at 142, as where I told you I would be buying at 142 or so, and now it's at 150. So let's look at the daily chart. On the daily chart, you can see that the 9 crossed above the 30 here, and now Apple is showing us a doji here, a doji candlestick, and it's at 150. It closed between the 4 and the 9. So this may be a good time to be buying Apple, but I already own it, so I'm not going to be buying any more right now. Let's take a look at Facebook. Here's a weekly chart of Facebook. In my opinion, Facebook reminds me a lot of Dell Computer, which I owned a lot of and made a lot of money with back in the 90s and going into 2000 when I had to sell it because everything was collapsing, April 17 of 2000. Well, on the weekly chart here, we can see this thing is looking really strong. We have that triangle we calculated. We calculated a target of 161.86 from the triangle on the daily chart, which we'll see in a second. And now we see that the 4 is trending up above the 9. 9 is above 30. So Facebook is still looking very strong. The MACD histogram went a little below the 0 line here, but now it's trending up again. There's a lot of buying power. So Facebook is a stock I want to own. And if you look at the daily chart, you can see that it was riding up against the upper Bollinger Band of 2.7 standard deviations, and it just consolidated for a while. And of course, look at the other indicators; they're looking pretty strong. Let's look at something else. And this is a weekly chart of Visa, another one that I own. We calculated from this triangle on the daily chart a target of 99.06. It's now at 99.60. They beat the pants off the earnings. And the way I'm looking at Visa is this. It's sort of a proxy to me for owning the very expensive stock of Amazon. Okay, this is $100 a share. Amazon is over $1,000 a share. Anyone who goes to Amazon is charging to a credit card, whether it be Facebook or MasterCard, which I think are the two most popular ones. And anyone who goes to Costco now is charging on Visa. So my call is that this thing is going higher. We saw last week that it was looking to go higher. On the daily chart, we can see what happened here. The 9 crossed above the 30, 4 above the 9, and the thing just went screaming higher. So I think this is one nice stock to hold for the future, to have as a core in my portfolio. Let's look at something else. I mentioned MasterCard, so why don't we take a look at MasterCard? You could see it's almost a mirror image of Visa. Visa is trending up, MasterCard is trending up. I didn't calculate a target for MasterCard, but it's at 129 now. Frankly, I lean a little more toward Visa than MasterCard myself, but both of them are doing excellent. And the daily chart looks very similar to Visa as well. Look at that, same thing. MACD is positive. The money flow on MasterCard is a little lower though. You could see that here. Let's look at another one. Here's another stock we've been looking at. And of course, they declared earnings and beat the pants off of the earnings. Netflix. Here's a weekly chart. It just screamed up last week, and it's now at 188.54. And we can see that the 4 is crossed above the 9, 9 above 30, parabolic drop below the most recent bar. So this weekly chart is nothing not to like here. I think most people don't get it when it comes to Netflix. If you don't travel, you don't see TV abroad, you don't know what people are doing when they watch TV. But I could tell you that when people travel, they see that the locals are using Netflix. They're using Netflix a lot. When they went to Brazil, they didn't have the infrastructure. Netflix signed some kind of a deal with them to help them to finance the infrastructure with more cable, etc. So I like this one for the long haul. I've said that before. Here's another one that I like a lot for long-term holding is an NVIDIA. And look at the weekly chart. We calculated off the daily, which we'll take a quick look at too, a target of 179.35. It's now at 168. And the parabolic is below the most recent bars, and all these trend lines are above each other. I'm going to go a little more rapidly here. MACD looks good, and Shaiken money flow, there's more money coming in again. So this thing seems to be continuing to go higher and higher. Now, yeah, there's going to come a time when it might reach a ceiling, but right now it still looks to be a workhorse here. Let's look at the daily chart. See the daily chart, when we calculated a target off this triangle, that's when we got 179.35, and it's now at 168. So let's look at another one. Now here's a stock that I like very much. I don't own it. I intend to add it to my portfolio, and it's Adobe. And I want to thank my nephew Christopher for bringing it to my attention. I could tell you this, he's one of the few people that I hear from, one of the young ones in my family, who I do this for. I mean, this is primarily to encourage them to invest in the market. I could tell you this, at the rate he's going to do very well. He'll probably be financially secure at a very young age. Congrats, Christopher. Keep up the good work. Look at this. Nice trend all year long, 50% almost, from $100 to $150. It has a scooter rating of about 94, the stock chart's technical rating, and I like this a lot. I'm going to be buying some. Look at the price at volume. You see, they're buying it. This is the price, or volume at price, I should say. See here, volume at price. So at this level, they're buying it. Okay, I like this very much. Let's take a look at some other charts now from Best Choice. So we only have a few minutes left. I'll quickly go through some of these regression channels on Best Choice with the stocks we just looked at. See if we get through all of them. Here's a regression channel for Apple. You can see that Apple is now at an extreme of 23, so there's room to go to get to the 90% level, which would be 161 if it can get there. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook, you can see Facebook is really overbought here. So if you want to wait, if you don't own it and you want to wait for a pullback, might not be a bad idea. Here's Visa. Visa is looking somewhat overbought too. It is overbought at the extreme level of 93.9. So again, you know, if it pulls back, might be a good buying opportunity if it pulls back. For the long haul, though, if you want to hold it for the long haul, that's a good stock to own, I think. And I'll tell you why. When these three regression lines here are close together, those are the kinds of stocks you want to hold for the long period, for the long haul. There's very little volatility, see? Here's Adobe. You could see how these three lines are very close to each other. And we saw that on the other chart when we looked at it. There's very little volatility, just a nice steady growth pattern. And the extreme is only 48. This might be a good time for me to be buying it. Here's Netflix. If you don't own it, maybe a good time to wait until it pulls back a bit before buying it, but you never know, it could keep screaming along. And here's a chart of NVIDIA, and we can see that it's somewhat overbought here, but I like this one for the long haul. I won't be doing a video for the next 2 weeks. We're on vacation, so have a good summer, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.